Good evening to all. My name is Francesco Cavalli, and I'm here to tell you about a project for an event of contemporary art which is very wide in Germany called Documenta. It's a project of which I may not because I'm mean, but I may not show you much or very much due to the fact that this exhibition will be in June and we're still writing the various signs, applications, several activities that are not ready. Well, but it's a project that lasts since 2 years and a half, 3, because it's a very particular exhibition which was held since 1955, every 5 years, to which more or less 1 million people participate in terms of visitors and like 150 artists in terms of exhibitors. Well, it's a project which is strange to explain the identity of a graphic designer, at least to explain my identity, due to the fact that what always happens to us is that when we have to speak about art, we should not appear in some way. It has occurred to us that, not frequent, but it has happened in our career to work for catalogs and artists and so on, and clearly the work that the client was asking was not to disturb, not to exist. The exact contrary of what is the actual young dream of any graphic designer, to do something which is beautiful, interesting, graphically very valid, which obtains the applause not only from the public, by the colleagues, of the various paths that are some interesting objects. Well, in this case, it was a project of grammar. Well, now I just let you know about this experience, which is an experience that we do since 2 years, and in the foreign country. I will show you a few things, and this experience just finishes with a subtraction of what our true work is at the end. Well, first thing, we had to learn what documenta was, and documenta is a word which derives from Latin, which means lecture, lesson. Well, it doesn't directly mean that. A documenta is a lesson, a lecture. Well, there was a great spirit of reconstruction when they started with the documenta, due to the post-war period, and documenta had also a characteristic which was a didactic characteristic due to the fact that it was, Kassel is in Asia, which is pretty close to devastated places from the Second World War, and therefore they had a true value for the entire population. Different from any other contemporary art, well, they immediately incorporated the idea of being a manifestation for the people, and therefore these very, very high numbers, which is the event, the artistic event, which is the most visited, more than the Biennale in Venice, in terms of numbers and visitors. This was very embarrassing for us because nowadays, giving lessons, especially for us who we were coming from Italy, not so recognized in the international scenario, well, this made us feel a bit strange and weird. Well, this was actually, Friedrichshain is the headquarters, the base where they do documenta, which was burning during the war, and then it became the true heart of this event. Of course, on the website, there is a mega section of archive where every 5 years there's, we wanted to vinculate ourselves. We thought that documenta was, yes, a lecture, but first of all, it had to be a lesson for who was working on it. What does it mean? Well, basically, what I meant is that we only had to learn from this experience, and working with Canon Kangarian, which was the artistic director of the festival, of the exhibition, not the festival, sorry, and we had shared with her. The artists would have been called participants, And we all were the subjects of the documenta. Therefore, we would have taken documenta. It's an experience that I had to live. I've never lived a documenta. I have never been to a documenta before now. And therefore, the first point was a travel in the past where there was a great attention to the details. This is a picture of Gonzalez, which demonstrates in some way a provocation at the end of a middle class bourgeoisie, an era that it was hard to understand after the war. Men pretend to look at the artwork but looks at the girl rather the woman, and she's walking as if she's in a picnic, but she's really into the art. And therefore there's a lot of details and activities that we want to take advantage of. And how could we actually face and do our own image, which is a exterminated image? I mean, it's like 1 million of people. I cannot compare it to anything. I mean, but for sure you need hard disk and a lot of paper to narrate something like that. Therefore, a coordinated image, which was particular. Well, we thought that we could actually, at the real beginning, avoid images as number one rule, because we wanted people to see documenta. We didn't want to use artworks, not to create problems between the various artists, which one to select, and so much variety. And one, narrate documenta through the value of documenta without showing anything, because documenta being a lesson, you need to really live it, going there physically, going to Castle. Therefore, what have we done? We have decided to invent a grammar. This is the grammar. We have decided to write documenta with the small d, because, of course, in all the rest of the letters are capital letters, and putting the number of the edition in parentheses. Well, this rule is the only rule, besides the absence of the images, that characterizes, that creates the manual of coordinated image of documenta. We started, this is a font, not chosen. In fact, our rule is that the trademark can now be written on your notebooks with a small d and caps letter open 13, close parenthesis. Well, this is an official logo and total value, approved by me. Well, therefore, we initially, well, this is a banalogist game. We did 13 different fonts, but they were never enough, actually. We tried to do a functional division. We tried to do any kind of division with these fonts. But at the end, in the long run, this mark could eventually become a signature. And of course, it was not enough to just explain the complexity that is beyond the event. We always had to have a method which could be very easy. There is no mediatic exposition to this, and therefore our idea is to create a brand without doing some branding, therefore without opting for commercial recognition of documenta. Like, for example, applying, well, we hit ourselves basically in doing this, because the work multiplied incredibly. We were super, stupidly, in the sense that all the materials produced, like business letter, business cards, letter headers, and everything, they are produced in hundreds of different fonts to create an effect, like sort of collection, or creating an appearance and difference to the form. Documenta is content. Documenta is a lesson. Documenta is a content. Therefore, come and discover it. What does this mean? Well, we started putting color, because of course we needed something, and we could not use anything else. Therefore, they're white on one side and colorful on the other. Of course, we could not choose a corporate color, or else we would have fallen into that trap of commercial communication. So these are business cards, envelopes. Well, the envelopes, the color is only internal. Here you see also the ones without a window for the address. Well, inside they do have some colors. And then, in some cases, well, this is a detail of the picture of before. I don't know if you recognize it. Well, we tried playing with some pieces. Therefore, we sink our roots into the past, and we try to go search for the interiors of the folders, the back sides of them, without anything that could formally say what Documenta is. Therefore, any kind of manufacture, you don't find anything. Rather, inside, there will be a reference, usually to the past, because of course we cannot really show you anything now. Or we played with the image. The Gonzalez image you saw before was divided into 12 plus 1, total 13, like the addition of this Documenta, to create like 13 postcards, each and every one with a different lettering, and by themselves in different places they were representing the official advertising document. Well, the same story in the story, but out of the story, was applied. The same technique of differentiation was used in the merchandising. We have created a calendar of 16 months rather than 12, because it was the difference from Documenta, well, in which the content are the dogs of the artist. Therefore, also in this case, a very long work, a lot of different kinds of bargaining. People wanted to consider dogs, cats, and stuff like that. Of course, it was very hard to select this, not done by us directly, but it was an enormous work and a minimum graphic work. Let's say, well, I was very surprised when, it was very, very particular for who is a graphic designer. I was very surprised that you asked me to speak about this kind of project. Well, these are other pages, and the colors, just like fonts, started to multiply themselves and changing. These were colors of the traditional document, the old, like light blue, pink, and they take life. I believe that also in an image which is non-coordinated, well, I believe you have 100 people like they are for 2 years. I mean, you need to manage them. I mean, it was a hard task. The first product that maybe you've seen is this series, which is still of 100 books, little booklets that have anticipated 1 week in the 2 years before. These are the 100 authors that compose in some way, that accompany the artist. Some are artists, some not. And they have published 100 booklets. We're missing 15 that just explain this exhibition. The booklets change not only for color, but also in format. In this case, being this one unique project, there is one unique font. Alicia? And these are some of the internal parts of the booklets. And also here there is a secret inside. There aren't any images outside. Well, the front pages put together compose some of the fundamental images of this Documenta. Here you may see on 4 different booklets some parts of the Britain, which is burning in the Second World War. Of course, it's not important. These images are not said. It's something that you see, but that you don't see, actually. People don't know. Who purchases does not. There is no explanation of this. There is no story related to this. You just find a piece of a building. Then it's up to him to see if he does figure it out. Then the colors reinforce themselves. And they started acquiring some, these are signals, these are tons of different vouchers from 1 day, 100 days. Let me just not explain this because, okay, obviously the project has been, it includes in various media. And there are some things that I cannot show you, like the exhibition design, all the various catalogs and everything that I may not show. This is the website, conceived in the same way. It's 3 pages. Now, it's 3 different kinds of whites, but it's a panorama area which shows some images, one of research and substantially in terms of content, and they open and they overlap with a horizontal slide. Very geometric. Of course, it has all its banal... this thing is Documenta for Germany is a very big event. We've got the sponsors, the greatest sponsors, like for example the Bank of Germany, the train industry and so on. We work with the post office. We've done the train, and this goes around all Germany. And we've had as a lot of advertising spaces to use for free. And after this train, we decided to abolish the advertising. And this is, oh my God, this is probably, in terms of graphic design, I'll show you something that doesn't exist, because these are the first posters that we've printed, and therefore here we've abandoned the logos, the informations, anything was removed. And I end with this, which probably, with these next slides, what we will put in the advertising spaces around the city, which will be exclusively color. So this is the work. And with this I'm finished, this part. Well, I wanted, well, Sylvia asked me, since, well, to mention a person who has been very important in these years for us. Well, beside the fact that fuchsia is a color, well, I just thought to speak about Giacomo Spazio, just to mention, because of course we have to quickly go through all our work. Who knows Italian graphics? Well, Giacomo Spazio, the graphics, is absolutely two opposites, because probably we are one of the studios who have made of the structure a strength, of the institutionality and seriousness, and Giacomo is the most punk side of this community, but let's say that Giacomo reminds us every day that it's only the passion of creating that causes us to produce some things. They could be done to the service of someone or not, and he's the author of this sentence that we've used as an introduction of a book that we wrote together, is thinking with hands, which I believe is the most interesting definition that gives to the project. It leaves a strategic dimension without removing anything, that this is an art. And therefore, the person that I want to remember and advise is Giacomo Spazio. The oblige of producing is alienating the passion of creating. And I will give this to the library of the school. I'm sure there is the school library. And therefore, thank you.